Time now for our rants and raves, starting with Dan Kennedy.
I have a half-hearted rave, or maybe it's a rave and a rant, involving Julian Assange, the WikiLeaks founder, who has been charged with violating the Espionage Act for revealing secret documents that Chelsea Manning gave him some years ago. Julian Assange has been given the Danny Schechter Award for Journalism and Activism. I should say the Danny Schechter Global Vision Journalism and Activism Award. And I would say that as a way of calling attention to the serious First Amendment issues that are involved here, I think that's probably a good idea. This is a very serious issue, and I think that we ought to be on Assange's side, whether we like him or not.
Really? But see, they're rewarding him for basically
the problem,
breaking the law.
Well, the problem is, as we know, Assange is a very unsavory character. He later became essentially a Russian intelligence asset. And I just wish that they had come up with a way of honoring the great Danny Schechter's legacy by calling attention to the issue without saying we're giving this award to Julian Assange, even though they make it very clear that they have their problems with Assange.
All right, Lylah.
I have a cautious rave for
all these tempered people.
It is, I know. But it's for the Obamas and their new foray into podcasting. The rave part is I'm really interested in seeing what topics they lend their voices to. I'm interested in seeing what they care about and how the discussion evolves around it. The caution comes from anytime you have a political figure, one as powerful as a former president who's kind of either revered or reviled, depending on whom you talk to, there's the chance that any media outlet that picks up this podcast is going to be seen as biased. There's a chance that any cause that they take up, that it's going to blur the line between advocating for a cause and propaganda. And
why would a media outlet have to pick it up? Why can't you just download it?
It depends on how it's
disseminated.
distributed, and whether when media outlets write about it and then link to it or write about it and embed it, whether that means they're co-signing whatever's being said. So that's where my caution comes in. But I'm really interested in seeing what happens. And apparently Chelsea and Hillary Clinton have a similar idea, and I have the similar caution about that too.
Well, that was they were just appearing at the library, was it, at the JFK? And apparently that was just deadly, so they're going to have to juice that up.
What a shock.
Well, it was Hillary and Bill, I think.
Oh, okay.
Adam.
I have an unqualified rave for the Montgomery Advertiser, which ran this remarkable feature on Jefferson Davis Day, which is a day in Alabama, honors the former president of the Confederacy. Schools get the day off, state offices get the day off. And the Advertiser ran a piece which was basically aimed, I shouldn't say a piece, a package aimed at reminding people that slavery was at the heart of what the Confederacy was about, and that slavery was an insanely brutal institution. And among other things, they included audio from Works Progress Administration recordings with 4 former slaves who described what it was like to be a slave. And I think we have some sound from one of them.
They can tie you up to a tree with your face in the tree and your arms fastened tight round it. Who take a long curling whip and cut the blood every nick. Folks miles away could hear them all for whippings. They was a terrible part of life on the plantation.
And I just think it's fantastic that the paper of record in Alabama, on a day in which a lot of Alabamans are honoring this guy, who I would say doesn't deserve to be honored, issued a sort of a stark reminder to their readers of what was going on.
That's amazing. You wouldn't have seen that just a few years ago.
Yeah, right.
No.
Sorry, Dan Lothian, sorry.
So I have a rave.
Said Adam.
I have a rave for the newsroom at WPLG, the ABC affiliate in Miami. This has been a tough week for them. A long-time anchor there. He had been working at that station since the late 80s. He committed suicide. And these are always difficult stories to cover, certainly when it happens within your own newsroom. And oftentimes it's treated, sort of what was behind it is very private. But they really, they opened it up and they talked to his brother, and they put a lot of information out there because they wanted to use this very painful moment to shine a spotlight on some of the issues of mental health and things that we oftentimes have a stigma connected to. And by talking about it, perhaps they felt that they could maybe save someone's life. That it would open the eyes of folks, and they could look around and notice things. And,
Had the family sanctioned it?
And the
too?
family did, because one of the brother is a doctor, and he talked about how his brother was in fear of catching Lewy body dementia, which was what his mother had had,
Yes.
and she
That's
passed
brutal.
away. And so anytime he felt something, he thought he was going to get it, and he was obsessed around this.
Is that what Robin Williams
And,
had?
exactly.
And Bill Buckner.
Right.
Bill
So, that was sort of at the root. They believe what
Yeah.
was at the root of it, but the fact that they're able to talk about
That's
it this
great.
way, perhaps they can save a life.
All right, well, I have a rant for many in the media who've taken this "don't name the shooter" thing a little too far. They're eliminating essential information. I was unaware, for instance, that the shooter in Virginia Beach was African American. It's a simple point of fact, but it didn't appear anywhere, and neither did his photograph. So it was like you just didn't know. I don't know if it had anything to do with motivation. That's not the point. It also just sort of breaks away from the general narrative that it's usually a 57-year-old white guy, and it's just a point of fact. And I think we can't be denying viewers and readers simple points of information because you think it's going to reinforce the crazies that are going to go out and be copycats in these shootings. I think we just went too far in this one. It struck me as odd. I didn't know. Maybe all of you did. I had no idea.
I think there's a way to report it without glorifying it.
Exactly.